On this episode, I'm going to interview Gerard Adams and the founder of the Shorty Awards. Welcome to Real Talk. I am your host, Carlos Gil, coming at you from New York City at NASDAQ Studios in Times Square. My first guest today is a serial entrepreneur. He is also known as the Millennial Mentor, and his name is Gerard Adams. Gerard, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you, Carlos. This is exciting. NASDAQ, Times Square. Appreciate you bringing me on the show.
Absolutely. It's great to be able to connect with you in person. We've been following each other on social media for quite some time. And look, let's jump right into it. I'm a big fan of your work. You have a great story. You're a co-founder of Elite Daily, which is a company that you exited handsomely in a few years ago. Your exit was about, what, 50 million?
Yep.
And, you know, we want to talk on this episode a little bit more about your upbringings, your come up, but as well as going beyond Elite Daily. What are you doing today? So you're from New Jersey.
Yeah.
You were telling me off the set that your first business was at 18 or 19 years old.
Yep.
And you've always been an entrepreneur. Is that correct?
Well, no. I mean, I didn't even know really what an entrepreneur was when I was growing up. I mean, I think that's why a lot of the work that I do today with the youth is to instill entrepreneurship at a young age. But I guess it was in my DNA. I didn't really know that it was claimed an entrepreneur. You know, I was always like a natural born hustler, you know, with my neighborhood, whether it was shoveling snow, selling teas, lollipops, I mean, you name it. But I definitely believe that entrepreneurship like saved my life. Once I, you know, kind of made a huge shift in my teens from going down the wrong path that could have led me, you know, really, whether in jail, potentially maybe dead, and, you know, I basically got away from that lifestyle to deciding to go into business, really learn about how can I channel my hustle mentality into business. And that's when I really started to learn more about entrepreneurship, and, you know, never looked back since
So
then.
did you go to college?
So I wanted to make my parents proud because I was going down that wrong path, and I had a second chance. You know, it's a long story. I talk about it in my TEDx, you know, almost getting arrested. And that's when I decided to follow the path that was apparently the way for us to become successful. But I dropped out my first semester. I felt like college was a big business in itself. And, you know, getting you into debt, telling you what classes to take in order for you to earn credits to get into the classes that you're looking to take within your major. And for me, it just was too slow paced, and I was ready to take on the world. So I dropped out, took a big shot, found a mentor, and then really we just went all in.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. A little bit about me that you might not know, a lot of folks out there don't, is I actually dropped out of high school at 17. And my first job was actually selling shoes at a mall in South Florida, close to Miami, where I'm from. And I can definitely relate to your story. The School of Hard Knocks is really where you learn what ultimately the soft skills that carry you throughout your career, such as sales and people skills and communication. And I'm with you. I think school is a big conspiracy, not to say that there's no value in it, but ultimately what you learn in the real world is where it's at.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm pro education, of course. I just think it's about, you know, I've learned this, and I was someone that at this point in my career was like, I want to disrupt education. And now it's more so like, I just want to evolve education. You know, it was a system that worked at one point, you know, when, you know, we wanted people to be able to work factory jobs and things like that. And there was those type of systems, and I feel like class was built around that. But there's a whole new tech economy. There's a whole new gig economy. The world has changed. And with that, the education system needs to continue to evolve. And a lot of the core skills that have made me successful, like emotional intelligence, financial literacy, leadership skills, sales skills, things like you're talking about, communication skills, learning even just how to fail and overcome those failures, right? Just mindset and personal development, like basically skills. All of that I feel like really isn't being incorporated, but you know, it's definitely part of my purpose now to help evolve that education system and start to bring those skills to the youth.
Now, before we talk about what you're doing with the youth and with education, you mentioned the word failure before.
Yeah.
And I'm a big proponent in you have to fail before you can go ahead and succeed.
Yeah.
And failure really is a mindset. But let's talk about you, because a lot of folks, I think they focus on the $50 million exit from Elite Daily. I think a lot of folks, they see your content creation through your personal brand and think, this guy's so successful, he's probably never struggled a day in his life. So tell me about a time in which you were just down and out and you thought, I am not going to be able to get over this hump.
I'm going to be honest. I actually just talked about this at a speech a couple weeks ago. But like, it's all the time, right? Like, I'm human. We're all human. Like, I think like anybody who's an entrepreneur, I think anybody, period, basically. But for me, like, I can relate to people that are out there solving problems, going after their dreams. Like, it's constant up and down. It's a constant struggle. There's a constant, pushing yourself and having to overcome, the stress or the anxiety, certain things. And I think you need to continue to keep, that's why really working on that mindset muscle is so important. But like just a couple weeks ago, I was like, things were going wrong, and a couple instances within my company, I had, a couple people that I had to let go of, and found out something about the back end of my the tech that I had to fix. And then it was, one thing led to another. It was just one of those days where I just driving to the office, I was just like, I don't know. Maybe this is, maybe I need to take a step back for a second. Maybe I need to reevaluate things. And I think it's in those moments that you are down and out and you have that moment. I realize like that's when you're really close. And if you push through, like, it's crazy how you can start to gain that momentum and things can shift so quickly. But yeah, throughout my entire life, I've had to overcome those kind of moments. But I think I learned this from one of my mentors, Naveen Jain. He's a self-made billionaire, and basically he said, it's pretty simple, right? You only truly fail as an entrepreneur if you quit. And you're going to have to adapt. You're going to have to learn how to pivot, and I've had to do that throughout my entire career. But you got to overcome those obstacles and push yourself through, because on the other side, like, that's part of like your story, and it's what makes it great when you actually do persevere and you actually do have those moments of achievement and success. It makes it all worth it. If you can't have the good without the bad.
So maybe speak to someone out there that's just getting started and they look at you as a role model, as a figure, and they say, this guy's really successful. He does not struggle a single day in his life while I'm sitting here, trying to make ends meet and make my rent. What is it that you do, and what would you say to that person watching out there in order to keep them motivated, keep their head up above water?
So I would say first and foremost, for me, it's been like who I surround myself with. So both from a perspective of mentors in my life, so find a mentor. For me, that's been a game changer for me throughout my entire life. I continue to seek out mentorship, okay? And then two, like your circle, who are you surrounding yourself with? Because you need to be surrounding yourself with people that are pushing, empowering you, fueling you, not that negativity. I would say two, put away the phone and like stop comparing yourself to everybody else. Take some time to look within and stop looking for answers externally. Start taking some time internally to figure out why you are doing what you're doing, right? Like really understand why you're doing it. How is it playing into your purpose in life, as to, because I think if you don't have that core purpose, like you will quit eventually. It has to be so innate inside of you. And then three, get a routine. Like really master your routine. Regardless of what's happening with your business, regardless of the things that are going wrong, master your routine, right? Are you getting good sleep? Are you writing down your goals the night before? Are you waking up early? Are you exercising? What do you put in, what is your intake? Are you taking some time to read a little bit, every day? Or listen to a podcast, or watch a show like Leaders Create Leaders,
Which is a great show, by the way.
Thank you. But just get a routine going for yourself and stick to that routine, because that's what's gonna get you into being a Spartan to get through it.
Now we're gonna come back to Leaders Create Leaders, as well as you mentioned the phone before in social media. Speaking of social media, one of your fans actually wrote in on Twitter and asked a question which aligns with mentors and role models.
Cool.
And what she wants to know here directly from you is, who is your role model, if you had to pick one person?
Wow. One person. who is my role model if I would have to pick one person right now? So I have a lot of role models, but I always love to give answers that come to my mind, like, quickly. And most recently, I've been talking about him. His name's Howard Tillman.
Okay.
He is one of the greatest entrepreneurs that I have ever met. He's not someone who may be like all over the spotlight and someone who, social media followers. No, he's a man of true impact in our country. He built the largest incubator in the country, known as 1871 in Chicago. He gave me a tour. I met him on the first tech adventure to Cuba, and he's created thousands of jobs. He's decreased crime rates. He's given back to the youth. He has done everything from venture capital to just helping young men and women get started, and learn the fundamentals. And he's someone that I genuinely look up to as a role model.
Okay. The follow-up to that question from Twitter also was, there are a fair amount of stories about overcoming shyness on your website. What did you do to overcome it?
So it was always a dream of mine to meet a Navy SEAL, and I was lucky enough to meet, his name is Paul. I met him during Memorial Day weekend. It couldn't have been a better time. This was about 2 years ago. Okay. We built a relationship, and one thing that he taught me that stuck with me so much, he goes, Gerard, no matter what in life, answer these 3 questions. And if the answer to these 3 questions is yes, and as long as it doesn't impede on someone else's happiness, you do it, and it will help build your character. So those questions are, 1, is it the hard thing for you to do? Is it the most uncomfortable thing for you to do? And is it the most uncertain thing for you to do in the world? And if those answers are yes, right, because you're shy, every one of us goes through those moments. Like we talked about it, even doing our shows, right, and going on stage, or going in, getting ready to pitch an investor. But if the answer is yes, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, it's uncertain, just do it, because it's going to be the one thing that's going to cause the most growth in your life.
Gerard, one of the things that you mentioned before is the phone and social media. I know you're a big proponent of personal branding, as am I, but a lot of folks nowadays are looking at the highlight reel.
Yeah.
They're seeing the NASDAQ, the speaking engagements, they're seeing leaders create leaders. They're seeing the highlights, they're not necessarily seeing the lowlights. I know for me personally, I'm a parent, and I keep offline intentionally my kids, and I keep the focus on what you see, which is the business professional. It seems like you do a lot of the same, is that correct?
Yeah, and it's something that I've really committed myself to showing even more vulnerability, now. I think that's, to me, that's real influence. And, millennials throw out the term authenticity and wanting, real authenticity. And, ultimately, I think those real vulnerable human moments that we all have in our lives from all different walks of life, the more that you can tap into that and share that, I think that's where, you become truly relatable, you become an authority, you become someone of real influence, and it's less about the followers, but it's more about, truly your story.
Let's talk about influence for a moment. I often say, if you really want to become an influencer, you have to teach people. You have to teach people how to change their life.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that's as small as teaching someone how to be vulnerable and ask for help. I often say to folks, people don't want to see what car you drive. They don't care about what house you live in. But guess what? If you ask your social network for help, for example, I've lost a job before. I've lost multiple jobs before. And every single time I've gone through that challenge in my life, what have I done? I've gone on LinkedIn, I've gone to Twitter, and I've said, hey, I just lost my job today. If anyone out there has any leads. Because again, that's what makes you relatable. And the key word I think is real. We're here on Real Talk, but that's something that's often lost on social media. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's something right now that, I'm trying to really push as a role model. And I work with a lot of clients right now that are looking to build the personal brand, looking to leverage that, because there's real power behind it. I've called it, I've kind of put a term of social currency, and it's real, right? It's powerful, but you have to want to do it for the right reasons. Again, it can't be about the followers or the fame. It has to be because you truly want to make impact in the world. You have a story to tell. You have, things that you've overcome. You have a real expertise and passion for things in the world. You have a gift. We all have a gift. And then once you're able to really tap into that gift, tap into your true story, your true vulnerability, really tap into why you want to build influence, right? Because it's not about you anymore. You want to serve. And then you start to understand a framework around that, because that's something that I've learned is you can invest heavily into a personal brand, but also be broke. I see a lot of influencers that are completely going out there building their personal brands, but they actually don't also know how to drive income in their lives, and so that they can even drive even more impact out there and understand the business side of things as well. So I think that's just as important.
And I want you to hold that thought. I'm going to interrupt you there because we are going to have Greg of the Shorty Awards on the set here in just a little bit. And we're actually going to talk about just that, is how do you become an influencer and actually make money?
Yeah.
There's a lot of them out there that seem to be broke, like you said, and they're just chasing the fame. They're chasing the followers. Now, something I want to dive deep into is you have a 501c3. You have a nonprofit. You're working with kids.
Yes.
Speak to that.
So after I had my exit, I tapped into my why. I think it's important for all of us to take time always to just reflect, whether it's every year, just take some time and reevaluate your values, reevaluate why you're doing certain things. We get so caught up we live in such a fast world now, right? Things are evolving at such a rapid pace. Technologies, becoming, it's unbelievable how quickly next thing you know, we're going to be on Mars, right? Thanks to Elon. So, I think it's important to constantly tap into why you're doing what you're doing. And for me, when I did that after my exit, I realized that I want to go out there and help, young middle school, high school students that were like me, that felt like a failure because I couldn't get good grades. I couldn't couldn't get those straight A's. I couldn't get into the Ivy League school. I couldn't get into the higher ed classes as my other peers, but I was creative. And, I was a different type of learner. And, I think it's really important to understand, those different forms of education. And again, to what I talked about earlier, there's specific skills that I think are lacking in the school system right now. For particularly emotional intelligence, how important that has been in my life. I think EQ is more important than IQ at this point in the world. So, that alone, and the principles of entrepreneurship, financial literacy. Right now, we just partnered up with another organization with a 17-year-old health activist named Haley Thomas, and we're creating an online academy known as Happy Academy that also includes nutrition, health, and wellness. How are kids understanding true nutrition, what they're putting in their bodies, right? Because that's something that I've sacrificed as an entrepreneur. So this is just something when I thought about my why, it was I'm going to continue to be a role model. I'm going to continue to, want to be build businesses. But ultimately, when I die, when I think of legacy, other than the fact that I want to have a family like you, I respect you for the family. That's first my legacy. Secondly, I want to leave something behind that actually helps evolve the education system and gives these young kids real hope and skills to go out there and conquer their dreams and solve the big problems in the world and create, become the next future leaders of tomorrow.
It goes back to something that we were talking about off camera, which is having a servant mindset.
Yeah.
If you have a servant mindset, you'll never go broke. You'll never go hungry. Mm-hmm. Now, tied to what you're doing with your nonprofit, I really like that you mentioned education and helping others out, teaching them how to become entrepreneurs. One of the questions that also came through here on Twitter for you actually comes from Jose Salcedo, who asks, what do we have to do to change NYC and New Jersey tech culture and get minority-based startups better funding support systems?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of statistics out there with how low a lot of venture capital that's going into women-based startups, especially. I'm a huge advocate of women right now that are out there building businesses. I invest in a lot of women. I understand the statistics as well with the minority demographic, me being Hispanic as well. My grandfather immigrated here. But I will say, I will say that what I've learned from going back to Newark and being a part of that ecosystem for entrepreneurs, that we need to really help provide the resources from a fundamental standpoint. I think there are investors out there, but what I've noticed is that a lot of these entrepreneurs don't actually understand how to even pitch an investor, how to build a sustainable business model, not just an idea. So I think that if we can have more leaders out there that are doing work like Howard Tillman, that are like me with founders, in communities, in these inner cities across the nation, building hubs where these entrepreneurs have the access to go in there, work side by side with other entrepreneurs, and learn the fundamentals of building a real business. Then they will get funding. So it's simple. It's in my opinion, it's once you understand the fundamentals of the real business, build those fundamentals. The money is out there, and we also need to be so for me, I think it's an education standpoint, and I think the money will come.
What are maybe 2 or 3 things out there that a startup founder like Jose should be doing to go ahead and put himself in position to raise capital?
So first and foremost, I would want to understand his business and how he's being a leader for his business. Is he building a team around him? And I would really want to understand the problem that he's solving and how important that is. And then what is the business model behind it, right? So once I understand, why it's important to him, what the problem is that he's solving, how he's building a team around him, I would want to understand why does he need money? And where's that money actually going? And does he actually have a process, the systems in place to actually manage that money correctly? Because, okay, what if I give you the $1 million that you're looking for right now? Do you actually really know where you're putting that money? I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs go out there, and even the ones that do raise money, they quickly burn it. They don't actually know where to allocate those funds correctly, how to actually not just hire, how to hire the right people around them, how to have the right systems in place, how to actually meet those KPIs, have real standards and best practices within the company to provide an ROI and create real sustainability and growth. So in my eyes, I would really tell them, like, really understand those systems in place, get those fundamentals in order, get the business model in order, prove it. Once you have proof, experiment, be scrappy, get out there to the market. Once you get some real market feedback, once you get some real proven traction, then you're ready. Now you're ready for that funding. Now you're ready for that that infusion, because it's more growth capital.
The word that stands out to me is team. And I'll share a quick story with you. Last Friday, I was in Miami with Grant Cardone. I spent an hour.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with Grant?
Yeah, he was on my show.
So I spent an hour with Grant, and it's great. He kind of goes all over the map. And one of the things that really stood out to me that he said, the area where a lot of entrepreneurs fail is as they make money, not raise capital, but as they make money with their business, is they don't reinvest it in their business and they don't reinvest it in people. They want to have that net capital in the bank. They want to say, I'm worth X. So they fail because they don't hire people that can help them double down on putting in the work. So I look at what you've got going on with founders. I've met some of the members of your team, and I've been really impressed with it, because now it gives me some clarity of, like, all right, Gerard has a really strong backing behind him. So how much would you attribute your team today to everything we see from the Gerard Adams personal brand on down to your business ventures?
Oh, it's, I love sports. I think one of the greatest sports that I was recently more introduced to, I got to go on the floor next to Lewis Hamilton for F1, Formula One racing. Someone that I really admire is Lewis Hamilton, right? At such a young age, what he's done in his career as a Formula One racer. If you go to a Formula One race, right, you give it to when they win those championships, you think about the driver.
Right.
But if you go and you look in the pit, and how much every detail of that pit, getting those tires so quickly, prior to the race, tuning those cars, testing things, the guy that's talking to Lewis while he's racing, it is a full team effort. I attribute all of my success, all of it, to my team. Elite Daily wouldn't be what it became. There was 200 people that were ride or die. There was so many people that were the reason why we were able to get to that level. And 100% that if you want to get to that next level of success, you have to realize you're not going to be able to do it alone. You have to build.
Who's your favorite coach of all time?
I would say favorite coach. Believe it or not, so one of my mentors, he would definitely say John Woodson. My father would too. I would say for me, for my upbringing, was Pat Riley.
Okay. I thought you were more of a Phil Jackson guy.
Yeah, Pat Riley, I love.
I'm from Miami, so I like Riles.
Yeah. He was a Knick, because I'm a Knick fan. And
so going way old school.
Yeah, it just when I saw Pat Riley, and again, there was the Knicks. It's been tough to be a Knicks fan, but Pat Riley, for me, is just someone that I've always looked up to.
Favorite athlete that you would compare yourself to? You are the blank of your industry.
Right now, playing,
or retired.
I would say Steph Curry.
Okay. Because you got those skills, the crossover skills.
I would say more so just like point guard. I want to find the team. I want to put the best team around me, and I want to give them the ball where they're in the best spot to score.
Okay, that's fair. Before we wrap it up, let's talk about your mentorship program and what you're working on over at Founders.
So we're launching a new program right now, and a lot of people have been coming to me because, again, they want to become world-class influencers, and I'm coming out with something around becoming a world-class influencer and what that is, and people that genuinely have a real expertise in the world. They want to leverage their gift. They want to go out there and consult, coach, for the right reasons. And I don't want to work with people that want to get insta-famous because they want to buy their first Lamborghini. I want to work with the real leaders out there that have this fire inside of them and they want to share it with the world, but they want to do it and know how to actually not make income while they're making massive impact. And there's a certain combination to doing that. And myself, if I didn't have an exit, right, the amount of money that I had to invest to build my personal brand is insane. And if you don't have the right model, just like a business, you will suffer. But it's tough because you have this burning desire to make impact in the world. And I know what that's like, and I want to help the real world-class influencers out there to help elevate their brands so that they can make massive impact and also create that financial freedom for themselves and for their family.
And where can folks out there learn more about your program?
Yeah, so I'll be announcing it shortly, coming into the next month, May, and you can sign up to GerardAdams.com, and I'll be talking about it there.
GerardAdams.com. One of the things that we're going to talk about with Greg on the segment when we come back on is the cost of creating a personal brand. Because one of the things that stood out to me is you said the money that you've had to invest to build yours.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could be, that's the thing. It could be really, like for me, I've invested a lot of money. So I think what's most important is that if there's the whole attracting your audience, scaling your audience, you're gonna have to invest, right? It's like what we talked about earlier. Like if you really want growth, you're gonna have to genuinely invest into doing this, right? Building a show, getting a studio, building out your content calendar, building a team around your personal brand,
post-production,
all that stuff. But I would
you don't
say,
edit your work, do you?
Oh, editing? Wise?
Editing.
Oh no, like my videos?
Yeah, your
no
videos.
way, Digital Jeff, he's like,
Costs money.
Oh, forget it. It's a lot. So that's why it's so important to, on the front end, understand the monetization standpoint too, so that you don't suffer. You're driving massive impact, but you also know how to create that income so that you can fund it. Because it's cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars, to get it to this level.
Excellent. All right, Gerard, thank you so much for coming on the set with me here at Real Talk. We're going to ask you to stay on. We're going to bring on Greg Gallant from the Shorty Awards in our next segment, so stay tuned.